Starting. Okay.
I'm
3, 2, 1. All right. Okay, all right. So joining us right now is Nick Story to help us talk about the NHL, specifically the Dallas Stars, as they've decided to fire Lindy Ruff and rehire Ken Hitchcock, which in a weird way is sort of a replay of the 1999 Stanley Cup. Let me start over again. That was weird. It's a replay of the ninth. Okay, so joining us right now is Nick Story to help us talk about the NHL and specifically Ken Hitchcock going over Lindy Ruff for a second time and being rehired by the Dallas Stars. Nick, what's your take?
Well, I guess from what I understand, from what I've seen of this franchise for so long, is kind of a lack of consistency with in regards to multiple playoffs, or at least for the moment of once making it to the playoffs, but getting shut out. Only, but would be removed as well. As far as just kind of the long term and the good of the franchise, as well as that base in Dallas, it was I believe it was a move that was well justified, or at least it was coming in the short run. But I wanted to ask what your take was, Nathan.
So my take, granted, I'll fully admit that I wasn't really following this team this year specifically that closely. I mean, I've been following them a lot closer back starting in 2013, but I've always been at least kind of keeping tabs on this team, especially come playoff time, all the way back till 99, 2000. But for me personally, I felt like this team definitely quit on Lindy Ruff pretty much halfway through the season. So I don't think there really was much of a choice outside of by that point, they were kind of forced to let go of Lindy Ruff. Now, that being said, bringing back Ken Hitchcock, I mean, granted, we know how he sort of famously was able to get someone like Mike Modano, who at the time prior to Ken Hitchcock being brought in was more known for his slick skating and scoring prowess than he was necessarily his defense. But he was able to get Mike Modano to commit to the defensive end, and from there, he very famously made the Dallas Stars one of the toughest teams in the league physically, and which ended up leading to them winning the Stanley Cup and almost winning the Stanley Cup again the next year from 99 to 2000. But unfortunately, but at the same time, I'm not entirely sold on this move, just because, again, I mean, while he could maybe do the same thing that he did with Mike Modano in terms of trying to get Tyler Seguin, who also is someone that's known for more of his slick skating and scoring prowess than he necessarily is for his defensive game, I'm not entirely sure this is A, where the league is heading towards, and B, what is the best fit for this team, especially since this team struggles to find a good goalie and a good defensive core. I mean, right now, I would say the biggest problem going forward is the fact that they don't have a shutdown defenseman on this team. They have a number one defenseman in John Klingberg, and I would say, for my money, he's someone that could be one of the best offensive defensemen in the league. Maybe not necessarily Carlson, but close to that level. But he's not someone that's going to shut down the other team's best forward, and this team sorely lacks that right now. What's your take?
So yeah, no, I completely agree that a good defenseman as well as the core of a good goalie would be something very beneficial, considering the percentage of points allowed in Dallas. They were, I don't want to get my facts wrong when I said it, but my understanding was you were allowed in the most overtime losses this season, or at least were very high on that list amongst the other teams within the Central Division, the West Central Division. And the Hitchcock move may very well prove to be. It's too soon to tell right now. It was ages ago when Dallas Cup. The fan atmosphere hasn't changed all that much. It's just that the game has kind of changed. It's still very much endurance. It's not as so much about the rough edges anymore as it is kind of the scoring and allowing that pressure, but also being good at having, like you said, good enough defensemen to hold off the other team's opposition. And that's really going to be a key factor, besides the fact that the somewhat era familiarity to Hitchcock. At the same time, though, it's a new core of players and a new generation of a sport that's been around for a while now. And as far as playoff contention, really, it does come down to not just a good defense, but an offense season. It would be in requirement of a good offense to make the save and put those points on the board, open things up on a good level, get people in Dallas excited about their team, may kind of have a more than just a grand year or a good year. That is yet to be seen. I'm how it unfolds. The best decision.
Yeah, I agree with you too. I mean, it's still pretty much up in the air, and there's so many factors going into next year, especially with not only the fact that the Stars now have a really high draft pick in this year's draft, even though this year's group of prospects going into the draft is considered to be somewhat weak, although maybe not the weakest. But the fact that not only that, but like you have the expansion draft coming up soon, and they're going to be forced to lose a player outright just to help an expansion team field some veteran players. But I mean, again, just going forward, again, like I said, going forward,
talking about the Las Vegas Golden Knights, right?
Yeah, the Golden Knights, the first major team to be named after any sort of like Knights mascot. So that's interesting. And the first team to be located in Las Vegas, like genuinely like major professional team. I lost my train of thought. So the Dallas Stars. So this Dallas Stars team. Again, they're still playing in the Central, which is going to be so competitive. I mean, like you already look at, and we'll touch on this when we talk about the playoffs, but I mean, you look at some of the teams in this division with, Chicago, who had the best regular season points, is almost about to be swept by Nashville, another Central Division team. And then you have Winnipeg, which is on the cusp, but has a very good young core, and is actually younger than the Dallas Stars team right now. And then you have, the St. Louis Blues, who are always going to be a good team, especially with the defensive core they have, the goalie they have, and with obviously Tarasenko up top. I mean, again, we'll touch about it a bit more once that comes around. I mean, like you're competing against all those teams. And right now, like, I mean, the Stars really have to knock out of the park with their development of prospects, as well as their draft picks, especially this year with having such a high draft pick. I mean, we all saw how the Dallas Cowboys were able to go from having the 4th overall pick last year to being the number 1 seeded team in the NFC come playoff time. But But I mean, it's going to take them doing something kind of similar for them to really really kind of get things back. And the big question going forward is going to be also like how they solve this goalie problem. I mean, at least it's not going to be as bad as it was last year, in so much that like at least another year has been taken off both Kari's and Anti's Antti Niemi's contract, so it's going to be more movable than it was last year. But even still, I mean, like they definitely were actually even worse maybe this year than they were the previous year. So it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, at least with Ken Hitchcock, he has a track record of helping developing players, young players that are coming in, which is something that I think Lindy Ruff kind of struggled with. I mean, granted, he still had like obviously examples like John Klingberg and Faxa to some extent, but I would say, but I mean, like you look at the list of like young players that have come through St. Louis and have become like some of the best players in the league. I mean, like obviously Tarasenko,
Right.
but you have Parayko and
Great prospects through St. Louis. That's primarily what I believe shoot for. That is, like I said, it's kind of all up in the air.
For sure, definitely, yeah. We'll move on to the NHL playoffs in just a sec. I think your feed is still cutting up. It's still breaking up a bit. Do you want to try like maybe turning off the video so that it's not maybe that might be taking up some of the bandwidth or something like that? I'm not entirely sure.
Turn off the video portion?
Yeah. Let's see if that works. If that makes it better.
Let's see. I haven't. Oh, maybe.
Yeah. There we go. Oh, dude, that's an awesome avatar there too.
Thank you. My first Funko Pop of the dude.
Yeah. I remember when I first saw that movie and I just completely did not understand what was going on. I'm just like, oh, this is a silly follow-up to Fargo. But it's a very good movie.
I weren't stitched, but you have to watch it. Appreciate.
Yeah. No, it's definitely risen in stature since its release, I'd say. Thank goodness. Yeah.
But anyway, going back to the Stars franchise, what their bait. I mean, wins is what drives people and gets people in there, as well as just a core of teams, whether it's the young guys or it's the veteran players, and that communication, the consistency with the coach. Hitchcock definitely has experience. No one can doubt that, but it's going to be probably an interesting new challenge to see him with a new set of guys. We hope a few younger ones that can, at best, from what we were discussing, they seem a little kind of just maybe mediocre or new developing rather, but not what we'd call, at least now, perspective. It's still up in the air. When the regular season should start up, or even in the previous time with the preseason to settle out and see who makes the cut and who doesn't. That should be a proper, showing of what we're to expect in the regular season.
For sure, and, definitely.
It is a very competitive and tough division, especially eyeing against St. Louis and at times against Anaheim.
Definitely, yeah. But yeah, let's move on to the NHL playoffs and do a quick run through on that one. Let's see. First up, let's talk about the Senators, the Sharks versus Oilers. Sharks v Oilers. The two questions that I wrote down is that okay. So basically, as we're recording this, as we have at the time of recording. The series is tied 2-2. The Edmonton Oilers have really given the defending Western Conference champions a good run, especially off the strength of Cam Talbot. But it looks like that sort of was broken through last night as the Sharks throttled the Oilers 7-0. So can Talbot put them over, and can the Sharks repeat and finally win the cup?
In more recent time, I've seen the Sharks progress a good deal, and it's been a decent core of I guess a few veterans and some young ones. I don't follow them as much as my Stars, but from what there's been some scales of improvement. I think the Sharks have a good chance of edging out a win. I'm not going to say it's another blowout victory, but
You still there? Hello?
Oh, did I fade out there a bit?
Yeah, you faded out
Sorry
there a bit. Yeah.
No,
That's not. Yeah, it's not your fault.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying that I believe it just be a matter of if the Oilers can kind of turn things around, that would be. I mean, it's not just probably around Talbot's hockey; it's a team sport. But I'm really thinking from what I've seen in the numbers, based on some of the numbers, but what I've seen of the Sharks alone, is a pretty good chance they'll win again. At least that's my thought.
I agree with you. I mean, granted, I will give credit to the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, obviously, this team is more than just Cam Talbot, like you said. I mean, they have the leader in points in the regular season on their team, and Connor McDavid, who's he's definitely beginning to look like the second coming of Sidney Crosby here. I mean, going from this is his only second year, and yet he was the only player last year to break 100 points. So I mean, but he's not even like their only. I mean, he's not even their only a number one overall pick on this team. I mean, you have obviously Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, but I mean, not just like number one picks, but obviously like their second leading scorer is Leon Draisaitl, who's been phenomenal, and then you have a solid, a decent defensive core, in so much that you have like obviously Andre Sekera and Darnell Nurse has been okay, but also you have like Klefbom who's been pretty decent. But yeah, I mean like this is definitely a good, the fact that they are at all competitive with the defending Western Conference champions is pretty phenomenal, and a good sign for this young group of players in Edmonton. And they should be, and even if they lose the next two games in similar fashion to last night and getting blown out, they should feel pretty proud about the fact that they were able to push the Sharks to 6 games at the very least. So I mean, definitely kudos to them. Do you have anything else to add on the series?
That one. I guess the next one was Ducks and the Flames.
Yeah, Ducks versus the Flames. So the Ducks are right now on the verge of sweeping the series. They're up 3-0 off the work of John Gibson and Bernier in goal, but also obviously that strong defensive core being led by Hampus Lindholm. And Cam Fowler also, but also Shea Theodore is one of the leading scorers among defensemen in the playoffs right now. And obviously they have the veteran forwards in horrible Corey Perry and the other guy, as well as I call him the other guy just because like I don't like him, but like Getzlaf. Yeah, Corey Perry and Getzlaf, having those two forwards pretty much at the top. But at the same time, they're significantly older in the among their forward core than they are with their defensive core, and it's going to be interesting to see whether or not they hold up. It'll also be interesting to see if the Flames can avoid the sweep by getting a win tonight, tomorrow, I believe. What's your take?
So the Flames having Monahan and more Johnny Gaudreau, easily one of my favorite wingers, and have a good chance of being able to get necessarily the one win, but it's not necessarily easy to dig yourself out of the whole drought year is either missing the playoff, coming very close, or getting uphill battle, and as well as maybe some troubles side that which too sure about would probably factor in. Be easy to get out is what I feel, but well, especially if Anaheim just kind of keeps on going as they've been going, it's probably a guaranteed win, honestly.
Yeah,
is there anything else you wanted to add
No, I think you, like you said, this is pretty much going to be a guaranteed win. I mean, obviously, like Gaudreau and Monahan are some of the most exciting players in the league right now. But I mean, that also being said, like it's like this. I will say this about this Flames team, and in so much that like I wouldn't go so far as to say that they're like kind of in some semblance disappointing. It's more so that they're kind of inconsistent for with the amount of talent that they do have, because I mean, like, it's not only just Gaudreau and Monahan, but I mean Dougie Hamilton, who they were when they first got him in that trade with Boston, everyone thought it was a steal, but like he hasn't exactly been able to turn it on as much as people were expecting. I mean, Giordano is clearly been declining ever since he was signed to that huge payday. And I believe TJ Brody.
Right.
Is that? Yeah, TJ Brody.
You got that right. Yeah.
He's. I mean, he's not. I mean, he's good, but he's not great. You know, or he's not super consistent himself. You know, and I mean, it's just. This is just a team that's still very young to some extent. I mean, obviously not really counting Giordano. But this is a team that's like young and still trying to figure itself out. I mean, they still have some good prospects coming up. I believe they have Bennett. If he's not already up, then he's up right now, and he's just still like adjusting to the league.
Of course.
Yeah, and so I mean, like this could be a scary team in a few years. I mean, obviously, like they're also another team like the Stars that's struggling with their goalie situation, or finding consistent goalie play. But you know, it's not really a guarantee that this team becomes a title contender going forward. But they have they have the ceiling of a title contender. Like they can potentially become one soon.
Of course.
Yeah.
St. Louis and Minnesota, from what I'm understanding, it's with the Wild of just having a consistent, or well, it's some core, some decent players around them. There's with Koivu and I can't rightly remember too many of the other guys, honestly, but I know that the Blues are definitely, like we said, very big contenders within the NHL right now. Some of the draft picks that come in and players as well as the coaching staff, the Blues can give everyone just that. So, but I want to say that I think there's a way Minnesota can at least, if not completely turn things around, they can come close to putting in a mark and hopefully looking forward to training for the next in the off season for the following season. But that one's just kind of on the fence for me.
I gotcha. Yeah. Like you said, this Minnesota team is just, they're again on the verge of being swept. They had a great year this year, and they seem to be kind of turning a corner a bit. They brought in Eric Stahl to give them some like veteran scoring, but they unfortunately had the task of going up against the Blues, and the Blues in the playoffs, at least in the first two rounds, are voodoo. As a Stars fan, I can attest to that. But yeah, like they're kind of the Wild are kind of like Sisyphus. They seem to be rolling the ball up the hill, and then the minute they come close, it ends up going all the way back down. I kind of feel bad for them to some extent, but then I remember the fact that like they signed two of the biggest in Zach Parise and Ryan Suter, and kind of caused the NHL to go into a long lockout. I kind of don't feel that bad for Minnesota, but I feel bad. I still feel bad for them. As for the Blues, they were the ones that let Ken Hitchcock go halfway through the season, and are still performing admirably in the playoffs. Again, with this defensive core, which I believe they are leading the league at the playoffs in terms of teams in the playoffs. They are leading the league. That defensive core is leading the league in scoring in that. But also they have Allen, who's been phenomenal. And to think like this team has had success with like two goalies in both Elliott and Allen, it is just incredible. Obviously you have Tarasenko, who's arguably the best winger in the league right now.
But I would say probably to be reckoned with, and I don't think anyone could deny that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Absolutely. And the big question going forward will be whether or not they have enough depth to help carry them forward in terms of the forwards. But I think they have a good shot of at least like possibly going all the way to the Western Conference Finals again this year. I don't think this team is good enough to necessarily win the Western Conference outright. But there's obviously it's the playoffs and it's a small sample size, and so we'll see. But let's move on then to Chicago and Nashville, and what might be one of the biggest upsets in the playoffs in a long time. What's your take?
So the understanding the upset was pulled by Nashville is what I'm gathering, right?
Yeah, the Nashville's on the verge of sweeping Chicago, who had the best record in the Western Conference this year in the regular season.
Yeah. So basically, for Nashville, with Subban, Pekka, and Johansson, as well as that core around them, it's a team that gets, despite these guys, I think a lot of people seem to overlook. And there's, of course, a lot of the infamy towards the Blackhawks. Being a Stars fan, that's no mystery to us. But anyway, honestly, I can see within some of that effort, and as long as they could put out and last, they have a chance of outing out Chicago, is how I feel. But Chicago is, again, more than just Kane and some of the other guys, and defensively they can be. I believe it's a very intimidating team, at least at times. But I haven't followed the stats as much, admittingly, with Chicago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, no, yeah, and I mean, it's not just like obviously Patrick Kane, but they have Artemi Panarin, who's been just an absolute steal for them, and he was almost in the top 10 in scoring this year. I mean, and obviously they have perennial top 10 scorer in Patrick Kane in there, and obviously the defensive core and the goalies. But I mean this. I will say this. I mean, I feel like Chicago, like I think all the success they've had and like all the winning they've had of Stanley Cups, I might be beginning to wear down on them a little bit. I mean, granted, obviously, like I mean, Artemi Panarin has only came into this league, I believe, last year. And so he doesn't have the same wear and tear, but I mean, like, obviously, I mean, as you pointed out before, I mean, NHL is a team sport, and if the rest of your team is beat up and worn out from years of playing hockey, like there's only so much you can do. But I mean, that also being said, like I wouldn't be, I don't think Nashville ends up getting the sweep, but I mean, Chicago is down 3-0, and it's very hard to win 4 games in a row. I mean, the only other time I can think that has happened was when the Kings, in the first round against San Jose, they were down 3-0 and then won 4 in a row on their way to winning a Stanley Cup. Or was that? Yeah,
Another feat to pull off, especially within ice hockey itself, being such a very physical and fast-paced sport. So, but I think at the very least, probably it could said that Nashville at least has a chance, but it's not going to be an easy feat to accomplish.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and I mean that being said, I mean like kudos to Pekka Rinne and the rest of that team, but I mean especially Pekka Rinne. I mean, being able to shut out that team. I mean, and granted, obviously, like I mean, Nashville has always been known for having a strong defensive core. I mean, it's not just PK Subban, but I mean, you have Josie among many strong defensemen there. And obviously, finally having a number one center in Ryan Johansson has really helped relieve some of that pressure on the defensive side of the ice, in terms of like being able to put up points and open up space. Again, like you said before, this is finally the most balanced national team we've seen in a while, and I mean it's kind of scary to think that like I mean this team just kind of struggled in the regular season, but if they can finally put all the pieces together in the playoffs, oh boy, they might actually make it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals, and I mean that they might actually bring it home. That like if they've put everything together, that's a scary thought. But now let's move on to the Eastern Conference with the Senators versus the Bruins. Do you think Spezza is regretting asking for a trade out of Ottawa right now, or what do you think?
It's potential that I think there's a fair share of guys in the past that probably been one to make that decision, and it can be a difficult decision, especially since it's not always within the realm of your own control where you're going. But the decision was made. He was in a new realm. There's only so much time because of the physicality of hockey as opposed to some of the other sports, basketball or baseball. It really is the energy you put in and the point, regardless of which team you're playing for. I mean, if there was, honestly, I don't what much else to say, but if there's something he could bring, and maybe communication within his own teammates, as well as how much time is put in. I honestly see him doing all right within the new environment that he's in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And granted, I will say this: like, the Senators have done a good job of turning things around. Obviously, this is on the back of like Carlson, who's been just a complete workhorse for this team. I mean, obviously, he's getting help from Hoffman and Turris on that end. But I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how far this team goes. I mean, like, they're playing up against a Bruins team that's been kind of a bit of a surprise this year, considering like how much talent they've lost and the fact they've gotten older. And like halfway through the season, they let go of Claude Julien, who, I mean, for the longest time was considered one of the better coaches in the league.
Right.
But I mean, they've been riding Marchand, who's had a career year in just absolutely phenomenal. He's in the top 10 in scoring points, and he's pretty much led every category for this Bruins team, and is basically the heart and soul of this team. But I mean, also on top of that, they have Pasternak, a 2014 first round pick, who when he was first drafted, I mean, everyone thought he would make it to the NHL early, but not have much of a ceiling. But I mean, he's already a high 60s to 60 to 70 point scorer in his second season up. And so I mean, they've been very fortunate with their drafting. I mean, obviously, it's going to depend on like how well the 2015 draft picks end up going, but I mean, at the same time, like they've really the Bruins have gone through in some semblance a quick rebuild, especially since they do have goalie depth in the farm system right now, to back up Tuukka Rask, who's still doing very well. I mean, albeit at a very high price, but I mean, still, I mean, he's giving elite goalie production right now.
Certain. But yeah, surprising plays from Marchand and Pasternak. I honestly would tip the scales more to the Bruins, but really, I believe that with the game within that playoff series, you can expect a little bit closer of a nail biter between Bruins and between the Bruins and the Senators. So I think there's just interesting factors in play for both of the teams.
For sure, absolutely. It's definitely going to be interesting. It could go really either way for either team for the rest of the series. But let's move on to the Penguins and the Blue Jays. Not Blue Jays, Blue Jackets. Might be. But basically, the Blue Jackets finished with the third best record in the Eastern Conference, and for that, they were rewarded with having to face off against the team with the second best record in the Eastern Conference, and right now the defending Stanley Cup champions in the Pittsburgh Penguins. And so they got really unfortunate with that one. But that being said, this is also a young team to some extent, and they were able to stave off elimination last night with a wild 5-4 win over the Penguins, but they're still down 1-3. Do you think they can win? I doubt that this is going to happen, but I don't. I mean, do you think they're going to win 3 more games, or the Penguins?
I'd have to agree. I don't see the Blue Jackets winning 3 games to take the Penguins out of this. Honestly, I mean, you have Crosby, but you also have a core of guys that have been playing and just they know their stuff. They know their defense. They know their offense. They know the way that they're going to play, and that's just really seems to be a bit of too much for the Jackets at this moment. But it should also maybe see a sign of there's a point to always means to improve, always a means to rebuild and try to get the Blue Jackets back on track for the regular season. But as far as the Stanley Cup playoffs are concerned, I see the Penguins taking this one.
For sure. Definitely agreed. But if God is merciful, though, then why are the Penguins so good for so long?
Probably have to attribute it to just getting some of the most interesting and some of the what has been some of the best prospective picks within the NHL. Whether it's Mario Lemieux or he's on the Panthers now. What was his name? He's been playing forever.
Shoot, I forget his name. I apologize. It's not Campbell, is it?
No,
Campbell ended up going to Blackhawks.
He's on the Panthers now, or that was one of the last. Well, if it should come back to me, I'll shoot the message to you after the video conference.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of the way I see it. They've just been also something within the training has to have stuck for a lot of guys that have played with Pittsburgh through the years, and that's also kind of a sports-driven, very class city. So it's no surprise that the teams have been carried for so long.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So Montreal and New York, the Rangers.
Yeah, the other Rangers in the non-Texas Rangers.
Yeah,
yeah. So the Habs made the controversial decision to trade away PK Subban for Shea Weber, and what a lot of people consider to be a somewhat lateral move, if not a little bit of a downgrade, in so much that Shea is considered it's not considered, is older than PK, but that also being said, they've turned it around this year and are arguably very strong title contenders. I mean, obviously having a goalie like Carey Price there is going to help a lot, but I mean it's a bit more than that. I mean, what's your take on this Habs turnaround, and do you think that they can win the Stanley Cup playoffs?
I think the Habs have a very decent chance of making the Stanley Cup playoffs. That being said, the Rangers are never really a team you want to count the chips out of when it comes to this sort of playing. Lundqvist has worked so hard along the net for a while and been a contributor to that team, at least it's my understanding, since he is the starting goalie. But really, I think Montreal probably has just a way of somehow they'll probably just be able to turn things around and get the win. But I think for me, it's like the same kind of thing we were saying with Ottawa and Boston. It could basically go either way. This is my thought. What's your thought?
I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, this has been a real intense series. I mean, anything that's going to involve Les Habitants is going to be intense. But I mean, like this one in particular, since like both teams are pretty evenly matched. I mean, like you have it's two of the best goalies in the league going head to head essentially, but also like a decent defensive core, two decent defensive cores and promising forward cores have been part of this. They basically match up very evenly. But yeah, I mean, like this could really go either way. I mean, like part of me kind of wants to see the Habs make it just to see more Quebec antics in the stands. But I mean, at the same time, I'm fine with either team going forward. I mean, both teams I think are deserving of trying to make another run, especially with Lundqvist wanting to sort of cement his legacy with a Stanley Cup win at some point. But I mean, sometimes that just doesn't happen, unfortunately. But yeah, we'll see how things go. And with the final, let's move on to the final series that we have yet to cover, and that's the Capitals versus the Maple Leafs. The young upstart Maple Leafs being led by the #1 pick last year in Austin Matthews, who at some point might have a strong rivalry with Connor McDavid somehow. But we'll see. What's your take?
So my understanding is that for the Capitals, it's been kind of an up and down set of seasons, and sort of that uphill battle when they struggle within the playoffs. Toronto has not really had their fair share of good years in a while either. But I think a lot more kind of tends to edge onto less in favor of the Capitals in this case. So it's probably a little more proving ground. I guess the saying is like a chip on your shoulder. So, but that's not to say that Toronto probably doesn't have some issues within their core either. If the Caps, I guess it's always kind of a struggle. I don't know. Usually when it comes to that kind of keeping fans or just keeping a consistency, DC is usually the last place on my mind when it comes to professional hockey. It's not like I can't comparatively say it to something of like, for example, like hockey out in the Southwest, like in Arizona, of all places, with the Coyotes. But
yeah,
I don't know what much to say except the Capitals probably have a slight chance, but they don't have the advantage that Toronto suddenly has now.
Yeah, that is very true. I mean, like I really do feel for the Capitals. I mean, like, especially since, like, I mean, they're their biggest rival in the Pens. Like, I mean, they like for as good as the Pens have been in the playoffs. I mean, you look at the Capitals and they've been as bad. I mean, like, this is a team that's had like arguably the best player in the past 10 years in someone like Alex Ovechkin, who I mean, like, while I think some of the negative feelings towards Ovechkin league wide have died down a bit, just because they see how good he is and just how committed he is to playing hockey, especially in the playoffs. I think I don't know if it's just like a mindset for the Capitals. Maybe they need to find maybe they just struggle to find like a good like captain or coach who can keep them like keep this team focused. But I mean, like, this team just has so much talent, and yet for whatever reason can't really, once it comes playoffs time, it seems to just like melt under the pressure, which is, again, just sad to see. I mean, like, not only do you have Ovechkin, but you have and Holtby and net, and then you have I mean, that defensive core of like Alzner as well. I mean, just solid Alzner and Niskanen. It's just like it's a strong team that I at this point, like, they're kind of not to say that it's like a 1-to-1 comparison, but they're in a way they're kind of like the LA Clippers in so much that they perform well in the regular season, but maybe once it comes playoff time, like, this is a team that's kind of that doesn't have much potential in terms of winning the Stanley Cup for whatever reason. But yeah, right. It's kind of sad to say.
Yeah, I think that's basically the main thing that thematic is a great comparison, kind of to suit in what's situated with the Capitals right now as far as the NHL playoffs are concerned. And the Maple Leafs just happen to have the luck of course, some good guys, good new guys contributing and putting in their all and just kind of putting on the pressure as well as contributing to the defensive side to cement their place. So again, I believe more of the favor leans on Toronto in this case.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. That pretty much wraps up for the hockey talk for this week. Thank you, Nick, for joining us. Hopefully we can bring you on sometime, maybe after the Stanley Cups. But yeah, thank you so much.
No problem.
And